Hey, happy Friday morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, Tom. How are you?
I'm fantastic. My latest thing I've been saying with clients is tell me everything when I get in, because it used to be like, hey, what's up? How's your week? Tell me about your week or tell me since the last time I saw you. And lately it's been more, tell me everything. And I don't know whether I haven't gotten any feedback, whether they like that or not, but it's what I'm using for now. Tell me everything.
It's like the EMDR response. You get tired of saying, "Let go with that."
Just, well, go with that.
We'll go with that. That's
But it's good. It works because it's always that awkward moment, when somebody's coming in the room and I break the ice with hey, would you like some water? And I have a little mini fridge with stocked with water, would you like some water? It's really important to hydrate. And that's sort of like a suggestion, like
yeah.
we need to drink water, we need to stay hydrated. And so if I can at least, if nothing else, I at least impart that, wisdom or knowledge or suggestion, hey, it's important to drink water. In fact, like my therapist is offering me water because that's a healthy thing. This is a healthy environment, drink some water. So,
One
you
of
know,
the
how
top
many
five
bottles
myths
of
of summer.
water that I had to throw away because they're like two sips were taken out of
Right.
them.
That's what you water the plants with.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
That's a way to check in on one of your top five and a subtle way of, breaking the ice on how are you caring for yourself.
yeah, yeah. And I like that a little bit better than, boy, this weather we're having, it's really hot out there.
No, no crap. We live in Central South Florida. It's hot. It's hot in October. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that rain? Must be raining out there. Those cap.
Isn't that funny? We engage in all of those things that your father said, like all the
Yeah.
dad jokes and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You come back in because you forgot your keys. You're not gonna get too far without those. Yeah. Yuck, yuck.
Yucca, yucca. So, how's your week been?
It's been really good. We're planning on going on vacation next week, so we're excited about that. And it's good to turn
Oh,
your brain off a little bit and just kind of veg out for a little bit. Not something that I readily do. I'm usually go, go, go. I try to be as productive as I can, and that cannot that can be bad or harmful if you're going, burning the candle at both ends, even if you tackle all these different tasks and you feel good about that. I mean, the pride in doing all these things is great, but the downside is fatigue. And so I've gotten better at that over the years, but it's still a work in progress.
right. Well, some people that go and schedule out their entire lives use that as a distraction.
Mhm.
I'm distracted from actually thinking about and working through issues that I know I need to work through in my life. And I'm just going to keep a very, I'm not saying this about you, Tom, of course.
Yeah.
Some people use that as a very big distraction. There are people
Guilty.
that,
Guilty. Mhm.
we work with folks. I've seen plenty of people over the years that real type A, real work dedicated, go, 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 writing emails at midnight kind of stuff. And once they finally let it go, they have a really, really hard time
Yeah.
because their schedule and their busyness has distracted them from really addressing things that they need to address in their life, relationships, mood, whatever. So
Well, I
we've
see
seen
that
that for
with
sure.
older people that I have that are clients who are retired who don't have anything, to really distract themselves with, like work or a sense of purpose, or, and they potentially sometimes start floundering because they don't know what to
Yeah.
do with themselves. And so they're just sitting around watching the news, which can be harmful. Younger people, of course, are watching social media. So, but older people watching the news and they're on Facebook and they're getting bombarded with all these things, especially politics. And they uh,
Mm,
they start to have these emotional responses, and there isn't any distraction for them or anything for them to engage in. So
right.
they start to have tremendous anxiety and maybe even some sadness and depression because
Right.
there's not a whole lot of meaning or purpose in their lives. And so that's one of the ways I try to intervene is to try to help them develop a sense of purpose, something to engage in that they can feel good about.
Right. We talk about internal and external 30-second elevator speech, and I think this is where it comes into play is, we talk so much about the internal, the thing that we say to ourselves about ourselves all the time. We've talked about that many times. But even the external is very interesting. Like you think you meet somebody for the first time at, a barbecue or whatever, and you're like, hey, I'm Brett. Nice to meet you. Who are you? Tell me about yourself. And it's very telling on how they introduce themselves.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Brett. I'm a executive. I work here, or when they put out that their work is their first thing, I mean, that's usually what people identify as their significant personality trait or kind of the the fact that defines them. So I always find that very interesting of how people lead in on an introduction.
And it's interesting talking about some people who are retired. They may not have done that job, in 20 years, but they still come out with that, oh yeah, I used to work
Yeah.
on Wall Street. Like, well, how long ago was that? Well, that was in the 80s.
Right? So you can tell exactly,
Yeah.
where they're gathering their self-concept and their
Yeah.
definition of who they are.
But they still
That's
hold on to that because they need that for a sense of accomplishment, a sense of pride, or that's how they identify themselves. But there's much more to being a human than just the labels that you slap on yourself.
right. And if your first definition of yourself is your job, what are the other things going on in your life? How are you gonna your job is not gonna be there for you forever, that whole concept of work to live, not live to work, you
Yeah.
know. And what else do you want to do with your life? Who else are you besides what you do?
Hmm.
I don't really know. I just work a lot. I work, I have a family, I pay the bills, I mow the grass, and then I go to work. Oh, okay.
And I think a big part of that is this need or this desire, unconscious drive, to have a purpose or to be purposeful, to have find meaning in life, or in our existence, in our worlds, with the people around us. And everybody has that to some degree, even if they're not necessarily focused on that. And career job ends up being that thing that we can cling to, that this gives me a sense of purpose. And I think it's important for us to find other things that give us maybe an arc or a theme to our lives that give us a sense of purpose. And if not that, then, or in addition to that, finding things each day that can give us a sense of purpose and meaning that don't necessarily have anything to do with what we call our career.
Yeah. There's many great books. The one that pops into my mind, I love Servant Leadership. It's one of my favorite books of all time. But another one is A Purpose-Driven Life. And, what some of the concepts that come out of a purpose-driven life are not, I don't define myself by what I do. I define myself by how I do them.
Mhm.
And a purpose-driven life can be, I do it with compassion and kindness. I do it with acceptance. I
Yeah.
do it with, uh, trying to be the best person and be the best human being that I can. And you
Mhm.
can do that at work, you can do that in your hobbies, you can do that in your neighborhood, you can do that as a volunteer, you can do that, all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
It's more working on yourself in your environments as opposed to what your environments are.
Yeah. Yeah, what's my purpose, or how am I going to be purposeful today? I think could be a nice
Yeah,
question, along with some gratefulness for the things that you are and the things that you do have right now, right in the
right,
morning, right as you start your day. How am I going to be purposeful? How am I going to be useful to myself, to my family, to my friends, to the people around me? Whether I'm
right,
working or not doesn't make any difference, but how am I going to be purposeful? I think that could be a really good thing for people to do first thing in the morning. Just start with that. I know it's going to feel uncomfortable at first, but eventually, like you'll start to direct your day and your activities, even your
Sure.
reactions to things in a more purposeful way.
Yeah. When working with retirees or particularly, because I have done a lot of work with first responders, and, when they end those careers, they derive much meaning in their life from being a first responder.
Yeah.
It's kind of their identity. And so we work on reverse engineering that whole external, elevator speech. So, okay, today is, my name is Brett. I've been a first responder for 20 years. I retired 5 years ago. Blah, 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 that story into what is it that I want it to be? My name's Brett. I retired as a first responder, but today I love riding motorcycles, reading books, and I volunteer, with kids tutoring 2 days a week during the school year, So even if it's not who you are right now, putting it out in the universe and reverse engineering, what is it that you want to do? What
Yeah.
how is it you would love to define yourself in the future tense?
I love that. If you wanted to write the story, what does the story look like? How is it going to unfold?
You are the author of your story. I talk in analogies all the time because it's how I organize my life. It's how I think. It's how I learn is through analogies. And, my life is like a library, right? It's a thin library. It's a long hall-ish type library. And there's a real comfy chair at the one end
Would it
and
be Hall's
everything on the
Hall?
left.
Is it Hall's Hall?
It's Hall. Yeah. I always thought, it's funny. I always thought I would have made it in the world if I had enough money to donate to a university. And if I did that, I would require them to put the building to call it Hall.
Yeah, yeah.
So my life is like this library, and everything on the left is my history, everything that's happened in my life, and I refer to it right. And I even use this visual in my brain. It's like, man, I am struggling with this thing going on. What book in my library do I need to open and rethink about? What memories do I need to pull? What experiences do I need to pull from
Yeah.
to work on what I have going on now, move forward? So that's the left side of my library. The right side of my library is all blank books, right? It's my life to come. And I have used that analogy where I pull a blank thing down and I'm like, this is what I want to happen. This is, I do a lot of goal setting, and I can't stress enough how important goal setting is.
Yeah.
And I'll do it once a year usually. What do I want to accomplish in the next 12 months? And I don't always do it in January because it's kind of hokey around the new year, but that's what works for you. That's what works for you. But I write down, what is it that I want to do and accomplish in the next 12 months? What am I going to focus on? There's 50 things I want to do in the rest of my life, but what if I'm going to put time and attention on one or two of them this year? What are those two?
Mhm.
So as we're redefining ourselves or going through transitions in our life, I'll pull that imaginary journal, blank book out of the right side of the library, and I'll write down, I'm going to volunteer this year. I'm going to ride my motorcycle here this year. I'm going to ride it back to Key West. I'm going to do whatever it is I want to do. And Tom, you'll be very impressed. I've been wanting to get back to being more bilingual in some languages that I let go for many, many years. And I'm on like a 70-day streak with Duolingo, both Spanish and Italian. Muy
Va bene.
bueno.
Va bene.
So yeah.
That's
So I
awesome.
mean
I am
that's
impressed. I am impressed. That's
you are the author of your future, so write it.
yeah.
Nobody can write it but you.
Yeah.
So don't let life define you, you define life.
You define life. That's a hashtag Brett Hall right there. I
That's a
love
Brett
that.
Hall classic.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I was thinking, I don't know why this popped in my mind, but there's a method to my silliness. I the most fun I had in grad school, not that it was fun. I mean, I love learning and writing and researching, but the most fun was when you'd get the vignette of symptoms for a person and you had to work through and come up with a diagnosis and then a potential, treatment plan. And it's
Mhm.
something that we do every day. And when we get in the field of mental health and we're working on identifying problems or concerns or symptoms and matching them with a diagnosis, we get so used to doing it. But I remember learning how to do that, and that was really fun because you'd get all these different symptoms and you try to work through and discover what would be most helpful for this person based on that diagnosis. And I was thinking that um, if if you're not the type of person who gets up and decides this is how I'm going to be purposeful or useful, or this is how I'm going to find meaning in my day, if you were to like have a vignette of your behaviors, your actions, your, thoughts and feelings and how you're conducting your day, and if almost as if you're a third party or if somebody else were looking at that, how would they or how would you define the purpose of this person based on their actions? So, um,
Mhm.
you might find it interesting if you're spending, hours and hours on social media, like that has become your purpose to engage in social media. If you look at your life and or your day and you're like, I've spent 5 hours on social media, well, that was your purpose, whether you design that or not, that
Right.
you're serving a purpose each and every day. I think it's
Mhm.
discovering what that is, and then you can work to change that. What would you rather it be? My purpose, I do not want to be watching or looking, consuming social media. I want to
Right.
be helping people.
Right. Your life, yeah, social media life, in that case, the life defined you instead of you defined your life. So for
Yeah,
sure. And oh my gosh, Tom, particularly this week and even some last week, how many people have come to you? Oh my gosh, I can't believe what's happening in the world, and this political stuff's a mess. And whether they believe left or they believe right or whatever they believe, it doesn't really
everyone,
matter.
everyone.
And it's it's really and people just hate it. But you throw out, all right, so that's been really bugging you. So what did you do to let it not bug you anymore? Did you stop consuming social media? Did you turn the TV off? No.
I
Oh,
watched more.
okay. So this has been bothering you, and this is making, eliciting all these emotions in you, and you're spending lots of energy and time consuming these things that don't make you feel good.
Yeah,
Okay, well, tell me more about that.
yeah. I know. Well, I got that reaction from a gentleman yesterday who has been following social media about politics, and he's definitely on one side. I mean, a lot of people are on a side, and I'm not on a side, so but and I hate that it's become so polarized. But and not to talk about politics, but this is just the one example. And he was engaging in all these conspiracy theories and all these, people talking about, a certain candidate. And he just thought it was so absurd, but he kept consuming it. And he's like, I can't stop. And I was like, you can stop. You can
Yeah,
most definitely stop. And if you need a distraction, I mean, we have such a negative connotation with that word or that idea. Well, it's just a distraction. Well, if that enables you to redirect your mind, then distract yourself with something else. Engage in something
right,
that's more productive, something that makes you feel better. If you're consuming YouTube or social media about things that are causing you distress and you feel like the answer or solution to that is to watch more social media, it and you're surprised that you feel like crap, like, then we need to stop doing that.
right.
Distract yourself with something else.
Isn't it funny? People, Tom. Pe- Tom, if a word for people, you and I'd be broke.
I know. Like I can't stop doing it. No, you can stop. You have that ability.
Right. And it's, it's funny when people use all these distractions and they can't stop. And it's like, okay, so I understand that you need to distract yourself from something, right?
Yeah,
But at some point, you need to address the things of that something. So we're actually in therapy. Why don't you tell me about that something? This is a safe place to talk about that something.
exactly.
What are you distracting from?
Yeah. Well, yeah, what is it that you're not dealing with? Are you not ready to deal with that? Or have you been avoiding that and putting it off for so long that you don't know how to tackle it? Well, that's what we're going to do together. We're going to tackle those things, those uncomfortable
Right,
things. And
right,
you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to sit in the mud puddle, as you say,
yeah,
and be okay with being in distress. And then the more that you endure that, the less you have to suffer from it,
right.
the less taxing it becomes on your life.
Yeah,
You ever get so consumed or so stressed or so worried or have some anxiety over doing something like speeches? People oftentimes get so stressed and anxious about giving a speech, and then you do the thing, and then you're like, oh, that actually wasn't so bad. I actually really enjoyed that. Like there was elements of it that I really liked. I'm proud of myself for doing that, even though I was nervous and worried about it. Why was I so worried about it? Why was I so anxious about it? It's fine. We make it up to be more than it really is in our minds, and we suffer from the perceived potential suffering. And back to what you say, why suffer longer? Why suffer twice over
yeah,
that thing or four times over that thing when it's
right.
probably not going to be as bad as you think it is.
It's human nature to think worst case scenario, you
Mhm.
know? You have a bad day at work or you have a bad presentation or you're late or something. Oh, I'm gonna get fired. I'm gonna lose my job. I'm gonna be homeless. They're gonna repossess my car. I'm gonna get evicted from my house or my apartment. Okay, you were late. Let's just address being late. Don't apologize. I'm sorry I'm late. I won't do it again. And then what are you gonna do to make sure you're not late again?
Right. You got to be. So what?
Yeah,
You know?
not the end of the world.
And I have people that say, well, if I plan for the worst case scenario and when it's not so bad, then I feel better about it. I feel like by thinking about it and going over it in my mind, imagining the worst thing, then when it's not so bad, then it's okay. No, that's not good because you suffered during that when you were thinking about the worst case scenario. You were overcome with emotions. You were anxious. You were nervous. You were freaked out about it. You didn't sleep that well, you didn't take care of yourself, and it turned out to be not so bad. It's not like that's a healthy thing. It's not a healthy thing to do.
Right, right. And careful, that starts slipping into some of those OCD responses, those obsessive compulsive
Yeah.
responses. People have these, they think that if I just do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, then nothing bad will happen, or my presentation will go well. But I have to do these things in
Yeah.
order for my presentation to go well. Well, when your brain does that and it's reinforced because it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be anyway, then your brain gets into this pattern of, well, you have to do this or it's going to be bad. Because remember,
Yep.
last time we did it, it was okay. So
Yep.
the next thing you know, you're washing your hands 300 times a day and you're locking the door 7 times before you leave the house.
Exactly. If I don't think about it for 8 hours a day, then most certainly the worst thing is going to happen.
Right.
You don't have
Mhm.
that magical ability to prevent that thing from happening just by thinking about it.
Right.
Seriously. So anyway, thinking about the distractions you have in your life, because we all have them. We all have those distractions. Um, are those distractions benefiting you? Sometimes they might be, or sometimes they might be getting in the way of you actually doing healthy and productive things for
Right.
yourself. So if you deem that those things are getting in the way, those distractions are becoming problematic, they're preventing you from either doing or tackling the things that you need to do, then we need to decrease or eliminate some of those distractions.
Yeah. And when we think about distractions, I always like to talk about the progression of distractions because today my distractions are 5 hours of social media a day. Well, social media hasn't been there for you for your whole life. What did you do with your time before social media?
Right.
What was your distraction? Oh, reading books, actually learning something and exercising your brain. Well, that was a
Yes.
good thing.
Yeah.
And now your social media is just eating your brain, but
Mhm.
you go from feeding it to starving it
Yeah.
or rotting it. But the progression of distractions, I used to exercise a lot. I used to go for walks. I used to take my dog for a walk. I used to do a lot of yard work and gardening. I used to you know, and now I'm consuming social media.
Yes.
Okay. And let me guess, you gained weight and you're not happy and your back hurts, and
Right.
your
You're
knee
pissed off
hurts.
all the time. And is the social media really enhancing our lives? Is it, I mean, it's just entertainment. And you
Yeah.
really can't rely on it or trust that any of the knowledge and or what you perceived knowledge that you're gaining is of use to you. So, I mean, and people feel like they are, oh, I'm learning something. Well, oh, it's just entertainment.
Yeah.
Just the
Well, Tom, I've said several times, I have never had a Facebook account. I don't do Twitter. I don't do any of that. I do have TikTok, which I'm a consumer of. I don't post anything. I don't, whatever. Just, I look at TikTok sometimes. But my TikTok feed is puppies and recipes and motorcycles and
yeah.
those kinds of things. Um, but I talk to people and they're like, I just can't believe what he said or what she said, and are these people really in it? And I just like, oh man, I can tell you, I am a happier human being for not consuming social media,
Yeah.
as as evidenced by the people that I talk to that consume a lot of social media, and they're just angry and irritable and opinionated and misinformed. It's so funny, Tom. I consume different types of news outlets, not necessarily from this country, but I know what's going on in this country more from other news outlets,
Yeah.
than the American news outlets. Anyway, so it's so funny how misinformed people are
Yes.
when they say something. I'm like, you really believe that? Really? Okay, that's
Yes.
interesting.
There was a day when the internet was not working here at the office, and so in between or after, the day was finished, I didn't have the opportunity to really look at like TikTok. And that day, I actually got some really productive things done that had been waiting. And it's sort of like, maybe this is a helpful thing for me to do, to
Right.
limit the exposure to that kind of stuff. Once again, that's a distraction that has become harmful for me and for a lot of people. As we've been discussing social media, that's one of the distractions that is harmful. So we need to decrease or even eliminate that and replace it with something more
Right.
helpful, something that's healthy for you, like reading or playing chess or going out and doing some exercise or taking the dog for a walk or learning something new. If you want to be on YouTube because you like watching videos, then maybe look up how to do something that you've never done before and learn what it's like, even if you don't plan on actually doing it. Like look up how to build a house. Maybe you would learn something interesting from that. Um, hey, you remember that book, Pillars of the Earth?
No.
Ken Follett, and he was
I like
talking
how
about
kind
like
of follow, yeah.
architecture and like building the construction and stuff. And I had no desire to ever do that, but it was just fascinating learning about like what goes into constructing like the perfect arch and like putting a building together and what it takes and how many people are involved with it. And um, that was a great and healthy learning adventure for me. I mean, that book's quite the tome anyway, but it's worth a read.
Cool.
But anyway, so
So distractions, they serve a purpose, and we need them at certain points in our life. Let's think about what distractions we use, primarily, why we use them, how they make us feel, and let's not forget that we're distracting ourselves from something. So that something needs to be attended to at some point. So,
yeah.
and social media, ooh,
Let's decrease that a little
have
bit.
fun with
I don't think we can ever get rid of that totally, but we can at
that.
least reduce the harm that we experience because of that by engaging in some other healthier things. and what's your purpose for your life or for today? I think that's a more important question to ask yourself and to focus on instead of what's the purpose of life. I think that many people have tried to come up with the answer to that question, and they come to their own conclusion. But is it correct? It's probably different than the next guy's. So instead of what's the purpose of life, what's the purpose of your life?
Right. And you don't have to, it doesn't have to be that big question all the time. It could be, what's my purpose today?
Yeah,
What do I want to accomplish today?
yeah. Then at the end of the day, take an assessment, look on your day, look at all the things that you did, and did you achieve that purpose, or was it something else? And did you discover that your purpose was to watch as many episodes of your favorite series as you could, or consuming social media, or was it uh, doing gardening and making your house look pretty and clean, and so that you can feel good in your environment? What purpose feels better to you?
Right.
May not be
Well,
as fun or exciting, but
thank you for your time, Tom. It's always good to see you.
it's always a pleasure, always a treat. So thank you for engaging in the conversation. I hope this is helpful for you guys. Please feel free to drop us a line, questions at therapyonzip.com. You can send us a question, or you can just give us a commentary on what you liked about the show, or what's interesting, or what you want to hear more about. And we're grateful to all those listeners, all those people who are consuming it. So thank you. We're trying to be as helpful as we can, and we enjoy doing this, so we'll continue doing it. But thanks.
And we're just gonna smooth over the comments that we've received, Tom, that people said they would love to not see the audio or the video of the bald guy. So like we appreciate the audio only, but the video is a little bit much for an early Friday morning.
We're
So
skipping over
we've heard you, we've heard you, but we're ignoring you. So
that. So deal with it. So just put your phone face down there. Yeah.
exactly. Adapt, persevere, adapt.
Yeah. Overcome, improvise, whatever you got to do. So thank you
All
so
right,
much.
Tom, you have a great weekend and a great vacation.
Thanks, brother. All right, man. I'll see you next week.
All right, next week.